You ever see a man stand at the altar, smiling, nervous, heart pounding in his chest, not knowing that in less than 5 minutes his entire life was about to be ripped apart, publicly, painfully, and in front of everyone who ever meant anything to him? Stick around, because what happens next in this story is nothing short of pure, divine karma. And by the end you'll understand why they say, don't ever play with a good man's heart, because when life plays back, it doesn't miss. This is the story of Jordan Hayes, a kind, loyal, hard-working black man who gave his all to a woman who didn't deserve even half of it. But when she humiliated him at the altar, thinking she'd leave him broken and ashamed, she had no idea the storm she was about to unleash. What you'll learn in this story isn't just about heartbreak. It's about resilience, about how the tables can turn in the most unexpected ways, and how the quiet ones, the underdogs, are often the ones who rise the highest. But first, let's go back. Way back. Before the altar. Before the tears. Before the shock. Back to when Jordan first met Vanessa. Jordan wasn't flashy. He wasn't rich. But he had a good job, a good heart, and even better intentions. A software engineer by day, caregiver to his mother by night, Jordan lived a quiet life of sacrifice. His father had passed when he was 16, and since then he'd stepped up as the man of the house. Every bill, every doctor's visit, every late-night grocery run, it was Jordan who made it happen. He never complained. He just did what needed to be done. And then came Vanessa. Beautiful. Ambitious. Sure. She worked in marketing and had this energy that lit up every room she walked into. When they met at a networking event downtown, Jordan was instantly captivated. She laughed at his jokes, complimented his eyes, and asked about his dreams. For the first time in a long time, Jordan felt seen. And that's where it started. The late-night texts, the coffee shop meetups, the deep conversations about building a future together. Within 6 months they were officially dating. Within a year they'd moved in together. And 2 years later, Jordan got down on one knee with trembling hands and a heart full of hope, and she said yes. But what Jordan didn't know was that Vanessa had been saying yes to a lot of things he couldn't see. Behind the scenes, Vanessa was growing restless. She wanted more attention, more status, more luxury. And while Jordan was saving every extra penny to pay for her dream wedding, Vanessa was entertaining someone else. Darren Simmons. A tall, smooth-talking financial advisor with a Rolex on his wrist and a Porsche in the driveway. He was everything Jordan wasn't: flashy, arrogant, loud, and Vanessa couldn't get enough. At first it was just flirting. Then came the lunches, the drinks, the nights Jordan thought she was working late, and eventually the affair. But she didn't break things off with Jordan. No, because Jordan was her safety net, her backup plan, her loyal, unsuspecting fiancé who loved her too much to ever doubt her. Or so she thought. The wedding planning went on. Jordan, bless his heart, put everything into it. He booked the venue she dreamed of, ordered custom suits for his groomsmen, and even wrote his own vows. He had no idea the woman he was about to marry was planning something unthinkable. The night before the wedding, Jordan sat with his mother, practicing his vows. "You think she'll like them?" he asked, smiling. His mother looked at him, her eyes full of both pride and something else, something unspoken. "She better," she said softly. "Because you deserve the world, baby." Morning came. The sun rose. Guests arrived. The venue was filled with family, friends, flowers, and music. Everything looked perfect. And Jordan, standing at the altar in his tailored black tux, felt like the luckiest man alive. Then the music shifted. Everyone stood. The officiant smiled. The doors opened. But there was no bride. Just silence. Confusion. Whispers. A few nervous glances. Jordan frowned, then laughed awkwardly, thinking maybe there was a delay. Maybe her dress needed last-minute adjustments. Maybe. But 5 minutes turned to 10. 10 turned to 20. And then a bridesmaid walked slowly down the aisle. No bouquet. No smile. Just an envelope in her hand. She walked straight to Jordan, handed it to him, and whispered, "I'm so sorry." Inside was a note, scribbled hastily. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Please don't try to find me. Vanessa." The room froze. Gasps. Murmurs. A few people got up and left. Jordan stood there, still holding the envelope, trying to process what had just happened. His heart didn't break. It shattered. Publicly. Brutally. He looked around at the guests, at his mother's tear-filled eyes, at the empty aisle where his future was supposed to be. And then, he walked away. Quietly. No outburst. No tears. Just silence. But that silence was the beginning of something powerful. Because Jordan didn't collapse. He didn't spiral. He didn't beg Vanessa to come back. No. He leveled up. In every way. The story made headlines. Black Groom left at the altar. And people couldn't stop talking. But instead of hiding, Jordan turned the narrative on its head. He started a blog. Left but not broken. A space for men, especially black men, to talk about emotional pain, heartbreak, healing. It went viral. Interviews followed. Podcasts. TED Talks. And suddenly, Jordan was more than the man left behind, he was a movement. But what about Vanessa? Oh, she was living it up. For a while. Lavish vacations with Darren. Spa days. Designer bags. But what she didn't know was that Darren wasn't just flashy, he was shady. Financial fraud. Embezzlement. And when the feds came knocking, Vanessa's name was on more paperwork than she realized. Her accounts were frozen. Assets seized. Darren skipped town. And Vanessa was left with nothing. No money. No man. And no one to call. Meanwhile, Jordan's life had transformed. His blog turned into a book deal. His book turned into a foundation. And soon he was speaking on national stages about healing from betrayal and turning pain into power. But the most jaw-dropping twist? It was yet to come. 1 year later, at a charity gala organized by Jordan's foundation, a familiar face showed up. Thin. Pale. Nervous. Vanessa. Standing at the edge of the ballroom, clutching a worn-out purse, staring at the man she once abandoned. The man who now stood under crystal chandeliers, shaking hands with celebrities and changemakers. She watched as people lined up to thank him. As his name echoed through the room. As he smiled, free, powerful, unbothered. She took a step forward, heart pounding, ready to speak, ready to apologize, maybe even beg. But then he turned. And locked eyes with her. And that's where we'll leave it for now. Because what happens next? You won't believe. Let's just say, karma doesn't miss. The room was glowing, elegant black tie guests, champagne glasses clinking, soft jazz in the background. Jordan Hayes stood at the center of it all, a man transformed. The same man who was once left broken at the altar was now the keynote speaker of a sold-out gala, the face of a national foundation dedicated to emotional healing and resilience. The man the world had pitied had become the man the world now admired. But in the corner of that lavish ballroom stood Vanessa, the woman who broke him. The woman who thought she'd left him behind for a better life. Only now she wasn't the one looking down, she was the one hoping to be seen. She hadn't planned on being there. She'd seen a flyer for the gala taped to a community board at the local library, her new hangout spot since losing her job, her money, and the fake lifestyle she'd built with Darren. Curiosity had drawn her in. Desperation kept her there. She didn't belong in that room and she knew it. Her heels were scuffed, her once expensive dress hung loose on her frame, and her makeup couldn't hide the months of stress etched into her face. But she came anyway. Because deep down, she wanted a second chance. She took a breath. One shaky breath. Then another. And started walking toward him. Jordan saw her. His eyes locked onto hers across the ballroom, and for a moment, just one fleeting second, everything went silent. The crowd disappeared. The music faded. And all he saw was the woman who left him shattered. But Jordan wasn't that man anymore. Not even close. He turned back to the conversation he was having with a publisher. Calm. Collected. Cool. Vanessa's heart dropped. She waited. Watched. Tried to gather the courage to approach again. After an hour of pretending to sip champagne, she finally stepped toward him, slowly, nervously, and tapped him on the shoulder. Jordan? He turned. Looked her up and down. No smile. No anger. Just a quiet, unreadable expression. Vanessa, he said. She smiled nervously. You look good. I mean, this is amazing. Everything you've done. Why are you here? He asked flatly. She blinked, startled by the sharpness in his voice. I needed to see you. To talk. To explain? Explain? He cut in. You left me with a note. At the altar. In front of my mother. My family. My friends. There's nothing you could say now that would explain that. Vanessa's eyes welled with tears. I know. I know I messed up. I was stupid, Jordan. I thought I wanted something else. But Darren was a lie. Everything I thought I wanted was a lie. And now, I have nothing. I lost everything. Jordan let that sit for a moment. And what do you want from me? Vanessa swallowed hard. A second chance. A conversation. Anything. I never stopped thinking about you. You're the only real thing I ever had. Jordan stared at her. For a moment he didn't say a word. Then he leaned in, his voice calm but cutting. You didn't just hurt me, Vanessa. You humiliated me. You made me question my worth. And now you want comfort because the grass wasn't greener? Her lip trembled. I made a mistake. No, Jordan said. You made a choice. The silence between them was deafening. But before she could respond, a voice from behind interrupted. Jordan, we're ready for you on stage. It was Mia, his foundation CEO. Beautiful, confident, graceful. She placed a gentle hand on Jordan's arm and smiled at Vanessa politely. Jordan nodded. I'll be there in a moment. As Mia walked away, Vanessa's eyes followed her, then turned back to Jordan. Are you too, what we are? Jordan interrupted. Is none of your concern. He turned to leave but paused. Thank you for coming, Vanessa. I hope you find the healing you're looking for. But that chapter of my life? It's closed. And just like that he walked away. Left her standing there. Alone. Again. But here's where the story takes another turn. Because rejection? That was just the beginning of Vanessa's downfall. After the gala she tried everything. Emails. Texts. Voicemails. Long social media messages disguised as apologies. But Jordan didn't respond. Not once. Meanwhile, Jordan's foundation exploded in popularity. He began hosting retreats for men recovering from toxic relationships. He partnered with therapists, coaches, authors. And every time he spoke, every time he told his story, the audience grew. But Vanessa wasn't done. Not yet. Because one thing about people who hurt others, they often don't change until they feel the same kind of pain. And Vanessa hadn't hit bottom, yet. A few weeks after the gala, she showed up at his mother's home, desperate for some sort of connection. Jordan wasn't there, but his mother was. And that conversation. It didn't go how Vanessa hoped. Mrs. Hayes, please. I just want to talk to him, Vanessa pleaded. Jordan's mother looked her over slowly, then opened the door just enough to speak through it. You don't know what that boy went through. You don't know the nights I held him while he cried, thinking he wasn't good enough. You saw a good man and used him until you got bored. Now you're back because life humbled you. But you don't get to waltz back in just because you're sorry. My son healed from you. Don't try to reopen that wound. Then she closed the door. Firmly. But Vanessa still didn't get the message. She tried one last thing, one final Hail Mary, the media. She reached out to a gossip podcast, claiming that Jordan had used her pain for clout, that he capitalized on their breakup, and that his whole image was manufactured. And when the episode dropped, it got traction. Headlines. Comments. Controversy. For a moment it seemed like the narrative might turn. Until Jordan responded, not with a counterattack, not with anger, but with receipts. He released his full timeline of events. He published her original handwritten note, the one from the wedding day. He even shared a chapter from his upcoming book that detailed his healing journey, emphasizing forgiveness and growth, not revenge. The public saw the truth. And Vanessa? She was dragged. Sponsors pulled from the podcast. The hosts issued apologies. And Vanessa's attempt to rewrite the narrative backfired spectacularly. But the most unexpected twist? It came from someone else entirely. A man named Anthony Willis. Quiet. Humble. One of the groomsmen from Jordan's wedding. A man who had watched the whole situation from the sidelines. And recently he'd been spending a lot of time with Mia, the woman who had Jordan's back through it all. But Anthony? He had a story of his own. A secret about Vanessa that even Jordan didn't know. A secret that could change everything. Because Vanessa's betrayal? It ran even deeper than anyone imagined. You'd think the story was over. That after the apology, the podcast scandal, and the viral clapback that turned the internet in Jordan Hayes' favor, everything was done and justice had been served. But karma doesn't just knock on the door, it blows it off the hinges. Because right when Vanessa thought she had weathered the storm, life came back swinging, and this time it didn't just break her, it exposed her. Let's rewind for a second. Remember Anthony Willis? The quiet groomsman who had been a background character in Jordan's life for years? The one who never liked drama, never stepped into the spotlight, never said much during the chaos of the wedding disaster? Well, turns out Anthony was watching everything. And more importantly, he knew things. Things Jordan didn't. Things Vanessa hoped would stay buried forever. It started when Anthony bumped into Mia after the gala. They'd seen each other before in passing during wedding planning and family events, but that night they really connected. Mia had been Jordan's rock throughout his journey, smart, loyal, the kind of woman who didn't need to broadcast her worth because she lived it. Anthony admired that. So they started talking more. Texting. Going on coffee runs. And one afternoon, over lunch, Mia asked Anthony the question that started everything. Did you ever know what really happened with Vanessa? I mean, why she ran off with Darren? Anthony hesitated. Then he leaned forward and said, "There's something I've never told Jordan. But he deserves to know." What Anthony revealed changed everything. 2 weeks before the wedding, he'd seen Vanessa at a lounge in the city, with Darren. They weren't just having drinks, they were close. Too close. It was clear something was going on. Anthony had snapped a photo, intending to confront Vanessa privately. But when he pulled her aside the next day, she begged him not to tell. Said it was a mistake. A one-time thing. She cried, said she was overwhelmed with the wedding, said she still loved Jordan. And Anthony, not wanting to destroy his best friend's big day, agreed to stay silent. He thought maybe she'd come clean. But instead, she ghosted Jordan and married Darren. And Anthony had been carrying the guilt ever since. Mia was furious. "You have to tell him," she said. Anthony agreed. It was time. When Jordan heard the truth, he didn't speak. He just sat there, staring, processing. All the pain from that day came flooding back, but this time it had a face. A betrayal that went deeper than just Vanessa's actions. It was a friend's silence. A lie that stretched years. Jordan stood up, walked to the window, and after a long pause said, "I appreciate you telling me now. But we're done, Anthony." The room went cold. Anthony's face dropped. "Jordan, you let me believe it was just cold feet. You let me hate myself thinking I wasn't good enough. That's not a friend. That's a coward." Jordan didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just walked away. It wasn't rage. It was resolve. And from that moment forward, Jordan made a decision. It was time to end the chapter completely. No more half-truths. No more buried pain. He was going to tell the whole story. In his book. On his platform. To the world. And he was going to name names. His publisher loved the idea. Raw honesty sells, they said. But Jordan didn't care about sales. He cared about freedom. About truth. About finally putting the past to rest. And when the book dropped, it exploded. Titled Left at the Altar, Reclaiming Myself After Betrayal, the memoir shot to the top of bestseller lists within 48 hours. Readers were gripped, inspired, angry for him. And through the pages, Jordan didn't just share pain, he shared healing. He didn't bash Vanessa. He exposed the truth, but he framed it as a lesson. A wake-up call about self-worth, accountability, and emotional recovery. But Vanessa? She wasn't ready for that kind of exposure. The book wrecked her. Darren had already left her. She was unemployed, broke, living in her sister's basement. And now, her name was trending for all the wrong reasons. She tried to sue Jordan for defamation. It didn't go far. Every statement in the book was backed by receipts, texts, dates, even the photo Anthony took. Case dismissed. The public dragged her harder than ever before. And that's when Vanessa finally broke. One day she showed up at one of Jordan's book signings. Unannounced. No camera crew. No makeup. Just her. And when she got to the front of the line, she didn't speak. She just knelt. In front of everyone. People gasped. Pulled out phones. Jordan looked down, stunned. "Vanessa, what are you doing?" She looked up, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know it's too late. I know I can't fix what I broke. But I needed you to see me one last time. Not as the woman who left you. Not as the villain in your story. Just as someone who's finally facing the mirror." The room was silent. Cameras flashed. Phones recorded. But Jordan didn't move. Then he reached down, not to help her up, but to offer her something she didn't expect. A signed copy of the book. With a handwritten message, "Healing is yours too. If you want it." And with that he walked away. That moment went viral. Again. But this time not because of the drama, because of the dignity, the grace, the power of forgiveness without reconciliation. Jordan didn't go back. He didn't take her hand. He didn't entertain closure in the form of romance. He gave her something far more valuable, truth and the chance to grow. And here's the twist. The story doesn't end with heartbreak. It ends with new beginnings. Because months later, in a quiet garden wedding surrounded by family and friends, Jordan married Mia, the woman who had stood by him, who believed in him before the success, who never asked for attention but always gave her support. Their vows weren't about fairy tales. They were about reality, about endurance, about choosing each other every single day. And as they kissed under the sunset sky, the crowd erupted in cheers. But in the very back row behind the cameras, behind the crowd, stood Vanessa, watching, not with jealousy, not with anger, but with acceptance. She nodded once, then walked away, quietly, for the first time, truly ready to start her own healing journey. Because sometimes karma doesn't just punish. Sometimes it teaches. And sometimes the real win isn't revenge, it's rising. So what's the lesson here? It's that pain doesn't have to define you. That betrayal doesn't mean you're broken. That what feels like the end might just be the beginning of your best chapter. Jordan Hayes was left at the altar, but he didn't stay there. He rose. He rebuilt. And he redefined what it means to win. Not through bitterness but through power. Through purpose. Through peace. And if you've ever been counted out, if you've ever been abandoned, lied to, or left behind, remember this story. Because your rise? It's coming too.